10,000 patient records were sitting on the open internet, protected by nothing. Alex Merritt had built the platform that put them there. The email arrived at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. The subject line was short and clinical. Security vulnerability disclosure. The sender was a director at a healthcare consultancy, one of the first 5 paying customers for Alex's new platform. The email stated that their entire patient database was accessible through a simple, unauthenticated URL. There was no password required. There was no encryption. There was only a direct window into 10,000 sensitive records. It stated that because of the nature of the data involved, their legal counsel would be in touch on Monday morning to discuss the breach of service agreement. Alex copied the URL and pasted it into a fresh browser tab. When the page loaded, the screen filled with row after row of private names, medical history codes, and contact information. It was all there, laid bare to the open internet, protected by nothing more than a string of characters that anyone could guess. The realization was not just a technical failure. It was a total collapse of the trust Alex had spent 6 months building. Alex had spent 8 years as a high-level product manager, living in the world of roadmaps and user stories. But in this moment, those skills were entirely useless. Alex was looking at a broken engine and realized, with a sickening clarity, that there was no idea how to actually fix it. Part 1. The problem. Alex had spent nearly a decade in tech as a non-technical founder who thrived on the what and the why. The gap Alex had identified was a bottleneck in medical supply chain logistics, costing providers millions in wasted inventory every year. Alex had the vision. Alex had the connections. The obstacle was always the how. For 3 years, Alex had collected quotes from development agencies. Every quote arrived between $150,000 and $200,000. For a solo founder without venture backing, traditional development was an impossibility. At an industry conference in Chicago, a competitor launched a product that solved exactly half the problem Alex had already fully mapped out. Watching the applause, knowing with painful certainty that if building had been possible, Alex would have been first to market. It was the feeling of being a passenger in your own career, possessing the map, having no access to the steering wheel. When Alex returned home, a tweet appeared at 2 o'clock in the morning. The post argued that generative artificial intelligence had turned everyone into a senior engineer. If you could describe a logic flow, you could build a production-grade application. It was a permission slip to stop waiting and start building. That night, Alex did not sleep. Part 2. The build. The 2-week build that followed was a period of manic productivity. Alex watched as the first SQL query ran automatically, creating a database structure that would have taken a junior developer days to architect. When the first API endpoint returned a successful response, Alex let out a shout of triumph that echoed through the quiet house. The partner asked when Alex had learned to code. Alex said simply that the learning had not happened. The machine had done it. It felt like a shortcut to the future, a way to bypass the gatekeepers of the tech world and move straight to the finish line. But that shortcut led directly to the Friday night disaster. Part 3. The disaster. After opening the URL and seeing the exposed database, Alex spent 4 hours in frantic, unguided repair. Secure the database. Hide the URL. Add a login wall. The machine provided blocks of code that Alex dutifully pasted in, but each fix broke 3 other things. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Alex closed the laptop. Nothing had been accomplished. Alex sat in the dark for 30 minutes. The speed of the build had felt like mastery, but it was actually the exact opposite. It was a counterfeit competency. By using a machine to generate lines of logic that could not be explained, Alex had built a black box and called it a company. The product had not actually been built. A magic trick had been performed, and the props had broken. Part 4. The rebuild. The rebuild did not happen over a weekend. It began with enrollment in a foundational course on web security. Alex spent the first 3 days learning about the Open Web Application Security Project, the global standard for identifying vulnerabilities in web applications. During a lesson on SQL injection and broken access control, Alex paused the video. There on the screen was a diagram of the exact vulnerability that existed in the production application. A simple oversight in how the database queried user identifiers. A mistake that a first-year student would have caught. Alex spent 3 weeks rebuilding the database access layer from the ground up. Each line of code had to be understood before it was allowed to stay in the repository. Alex stopped using AI to write the logic and started using it to explain concepts, writing functions by hand and asking the machine to critique the security implications afterward. When the work was finished, Alex hired a security consultant. The consultant said that while the original version was a disaster, the new architecture was professional, resilient, and correctly implemented. Part 5. The Recovery. Alex wrote a personal email to each beta user who had left. No corporate jargon, no technical excuses. An honest account of what had happened and what had been rebuilt. Most emails went unanswered. But one response came back from the director of the healthcare consultancy. He said that in 20 years of business, he had never seen a founder take that level of personal responsibility for a technical failure. If the rebuilt platform passed his team's security audit, they would stay. It passed. 3 months later, a major medical supply corporation reached out about a global rollout. During the video call, the lead architect asked a highly technical question about data encryption at rest. In that brief moment, Alex felt the memory of the Friday night rush back. The blue light of the monitor. The 4 hours of failed prompts. The feeling of closing a laptop on a problem that was too big to solve. That memory did not arrive as shame. It arrived as orientation. Alex took a breath and answered in 3 clear, precise sentences, explaining the specific encryption standard and the key rotation policy implemented during the rebuild. The architect nodded. The deal moved forward. It was a result of the founder finally knowing their own worth. Part 6. The Decision. When a venture capital firm reached out with a $3 million term sheet, Alex called a friend who had been a funded founder. The friend was honest. Once the money hits the bank, you become a manager of people. A CTO holds all the technical knowledge. A single resignation can make you a passenger in your own company again. Alex spent the weekend thinking about the Friday night. On Monday morning, Alex declined the offer. The decision felt like a reclamation of freedom. Alex chose to stay small, to stay technical, and to stay in control of the craft. The lesson of the Friday night had been too expensive to forget. Part 7. The Season Finale. This story brings us to the conclusion of Season 1 of the AI Advantage. Across 48 professionals and 48 distinct lessons, we have explored the potential and the hidden traps of the new technical landscape. We have seen the danger of blind automation and the necessity of professional integrity. We have watched people rebuild after failure and find their humanity inside systems that were threatening to replace it. You can delegate the labor, but you can never delegate the understanding. The tools are here to amplify your vision, not to excuse you from the work of knowing how your world actually functions. Season 1 is complete. 48 lessons. 48 professionals. One truth that ran through every single story. The AI advantage is real, but it belongs to the people who show up to do the thinking. Thank you for being here for every episode. Season 2 is coming. Subscribe and follow along. We will see you there.